I'm not a big fighting game person. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I'm not very good at them. Dead or Alive has always been my fighting game weapon of choice, as a result, as it doesn't take itself very seriously, even by fighting game standards, and it has always been quite accessible. So for me, Dead or Alive 5 is actually a step in the wrong direction. The fighting mechanics have been tightened significantly, and that is a good thing, but the personality that made the game stand out from the pack has been lost a little. Obviously, it's impossible to discuss Dead or Alive without mentioning the jiggle. And yet, in Dead or Alive 5, there's actually less jiggle than in any other 3D fighting game franchise. That surprised me, to be frank. The women all look human, replacing the plastic mannequin dolls of previous games in the series, and while there's the odd revealing costume or sexy victory pose, the sex sells motif of previous Dead or Alive games has been dialed back significantly. Thankfully, in other areas the game is completely over the top still. Environments are large and very destructible, and often a little silly, filled with danger zones that do help to add a layer of strategy to the action. As well as that, there's the opportunity for some real cinematic insanity, which the game engine does take complete advantage of. As for the combat itself, it's now far more similar to other fighting game series. Dead or Alive has always been about executing counters and playing mind games with your opponent, and while there is still an element to that, the window to execute counters is now far smaller, and attacks do come in far quicker. As a result, the game encourages a far more aggressive approach to combat, and in jumping online, it's clear that a lot of people have interpreted that as an opportunity to button mash. In previous Dead or Alive games, if someone was caught button mashing, it would be game over if they came up against somebody with any real skill. Here, it is far more difficult to counter button mashing, and it's certainly beyond my skills. So, as a result, I found online to be a touch too frustrating for its own good. It's deep, with a great lobby system and a multitude of ways to play with friends and family from all over the world. But playing against random people is a little disappointing, and it doesn't help that I also experience some lag while playing online, even though I have a fast internet connection. I don't really miss online though, because I find the single player game more than deep enough. There's social network integration, and there's the usual bevy of tutorial, survival, arcade and story modes. The story mode is not going to make sense to anyone who has not played through the previous Dead or Alive games, and even then it takes some logic stretching to put 2 and 2 together. That said, it's fun, and it does show that Tecmo Koei hasn't completely forgotten what made this series popular in the first place.
So you're saying that whatever the people who have left Doatech do on their own is none of your concern. Is that right? Whatever. By the way, is that girl your messenger now?
Elena. Tell me. Where is my clone? Where is Alpha?
Kasumi.
Where is she? Tell me, I beg you. I need to find her.
I'm honestly disappointed that the fighting itself has gone from being highly accessible and simple to something of a mashup of other 3D fighters. Yes, Tecmo Koei probably did need to move up the fighting game food chain and turn Dead or Alive into a series for the serious fighting game fans. But to me, Dead or Alive 5 is a little too generic for its own good. But, as I said at the start, I am a casual fighting game fan. And given that the fighting mechanics of Dead or Alive 5 have clearly been refined to a fine edge, I would also suggest that this is the first Dead or Alive game that the serious fighting game fans should consider getting into.
Get ready!